Hey, you, wherever you are in the world right now, thank you so much for being here with me today. We know we live in some volatile times right now, and we know that the world is changing. So let's create a bridge as we travel through one another's countries, removing all labels, coming together as one people, finding our home in one world. And as we do this, it is why our signature talk today about healing New Earth is so important. So settle in and let's jump right in. Today, I am super excited to welcome my guest, Julia Stubbe. Hi, Julia.
Hi. I'm excited to be here. This is such a wonderful reason to be able to touch the people of Earth, and I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Julia is an intuitive spiritual counselor, and she channels healing energy. She specializes in assisting people in overcoming emotional blockages, spiritual issues, and physical conditions, as well as encouraging growth and wellness within themselves. Julia uses a holistic approach to interweave different healing modalities to find a deeper understanding of physical problems. And by peeling away those layers of the surface challenges and the blockages, she's able to go into a place of understanding and realization of issues through this healing enlightenment that is exposed, allowing deeper issues to come to light. And this approach facilitates a healing transformation through a hands-on healing, but also a holistic counseling. I am just intrigued by all of this, Julia. This is amazing.
Well, one of the things I have to say is I had to go through this journey of healing myself, and I really went to those deep, deep layers. And in order for me to facilitate healing for others, I really have to work on facilitating healing for myself, and really do that, because if I'm not a clear channel, then my stuff can get muddied with my clients or with even with you, just talking to you. So I worked on my journey to be able to forgive and really heal my inner child through the ages. And that's been really, really important to me.
Yeah. And that's a lot of inward self-introspective healing that you have to do when you do that kind of work. It's very deep work. And I'm sure a lot of people come to you trying to tap into that deep work, but also just trying to find their purpose for their life.
Yeah, and a lot of the misconception is the way we've been programmed on this planet is in order to make a big difference, it has to be something huge and something big. And we have to have a grand purpose in order for us to make a difference. And my belief is that we start with those little small acts, those little random acts of kindness and love. And we treat each other with those acts of kindness and love. And that in turn raises our vibration, and it also raises the vibration of others. And one of the other things that I want to really be clear about is a lot of us are empathic and we're picking up the energies of others. So if somebody else is angry or they're depressed, we absorb those energies and those feelings. So it's important for us to really clear our fields. And if you'd like, Kathy, I can give you a little quick routine of what I do that would help our listeners or watchers, whatever you guys are doing right now, to really clear your fields. And I do this a couple times a day. I do this routine, and it literally takes a minute anytime I open and close a door, because it's like, I go into the store. I picked up 5 people's different energy, and it's like, what's wrong? Or I go and open my car door. It's like, okay, that means I'm going somewhere. So anyway, let's get started with that if you want.
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, so I just want you to just close your eyes and take a couple nice breaths. And I just want you to envision a beautiful blue diamond waterfall just coming down and flowing over top of you and through you. And those little diamonds are just cutting away any outside entities, outside influences, outside programming, allowing you to be you, allowing me to be me. and just feel all that dissolving away. And then feel those waters, those beautiful blue waters of the waterfall, just flowing through and around you, washing all away that debris, clearing all that outside entities, all those outside influences, all outside those programs. And then what's another important thing to go with this is what we call a shield. And I like to just envision a beautiful rainbow shield around me with all the colors of the rainbow, starting with violet. And each layer is about 6 inches. So we have the violet, the indigo blue, the sky blue, the green, the really vibrant yellow, orange, and red. So that any energies coming in from the outside have to go through all those layers before they even come to you, and all those higher vibrations, so that most of the time, before they even touch you, they're dissolved. And the other final step to this is to be grounded. And I envision 2 ways. It's like I can envision myself as a tree, a beautiful oak or maple, whatever you like, and that my legs are the trunk of the tree, and that my roots go deep, deep into the earth. Or another way to envision is that you have a grounding plug, a 3-prong plug, and the 2 prongs are coming out of your feet, and that grounding prong is coming out of your root chakra, and that's just going down and connecting you into the crystalline core of the earth, really connecting you. And one of the importance of grounding is to be able to hold your light. If you can imagine, like, say your power went out in your house and you needed to plug in a generator. So if you used a little toaster cord to plug that generator in, what would happen? Boom! It was like it would just blow all the circuits out. And that's what happens to our physical body when we're trying to hold light. So sometimes you have different signs of ascension, like headaches, or you just feel really wanky or weird, and you're not fully grounded because you're blowing that cord out. So it's really important to be grounded so you can hold this light, especially this new energies and that are coming in with the energies of the planet right now. So how's that make you feel? How's everybody doing?
Oh my goodness, it feels amazing.
So what I do is, like, to make that into a minute, that took probably less than 3 to walk you through it, is I just run my blue diamond waterfall, envision it, activate my rainbow egg shield, and I ground and just envision that grounding cord in, and it's done just like that within less than a minute. And I do that several times a day.
Wow. Now,
And
do you feel a lot of energy coming at you? Like, I mean, just when you're walking out in the world, or?
Well, I'm a high-level empath, and it took me many years to even know that I had to be grounded or shielded. And I actually had people would say, well, you never walk too close to the ground anyhow, because I would always be out of my body. And so I would get sick, I would feel pain, I would feel all this stuff coming around me all the time. And I didn't necessarily understand it at first, but then I understand it was other people's stuff, but I didn't know what to do about it. So that's why it's important for me to let people know that with these 3 little steps, that you can really make a big difference in your physical body, your emotional body, by doing this. And by this is another way to help the planet, because when you're doing this for yourself, you're raising your vibration, and then the people around you are getting that vibration and they're getting the coding. So in turn, it's actually raising their vibration. You really never know where your ripples are going to go or how they're going to affect others. So just by self-care, that seems like, it doesn't seem necessarily like a purpose, but if you just even do that with that intention, you're still affecting the planet. But back to the kindness and the love, when you're kind to someone, it shifts the way they look at things. And 95% of the time, by you being kind to them, they're going to be kind to somebody else. If you're irritated or angry and you're not happy with yourself and you take it out on somebody else, not only are you lowering your vibration, you're lowering their vibration, and probably whoever they're communicating with as well, if that makes any sense. So to be really conscious of your thoughts and your words, because your thoughts too, it's like, if you want to be kind and then in the back of your mind you're thinking stuff that doesn't really agree with the words that are coming out of your mouth, it crosses each other out. It's really to be genuine, coming from that heart. And it's like, well, how would I like to be treated? How would I like to be spoken to in this moment? And if you see somebody struggling, it's like, what can you do to lift them up? So I always go to my heart and like, okay, Spirit, show me how I can assist them the best. And it might be with a few words, I trust that, or it just might be with letting them in front of me in line so that, they know that somebody's paying attention to them. Or at the cashier and say, I really appreciate you, and thank them for what they're doing, even though it might not seem like that's that important, but for them, that's their livelihood, and it's like they're trying to make a difference. So to let people know they're being seen, it can be a purpose that you're not even aware of that you're doing. And those that are moms and parents and teachers, you're touching the lives of young children that are going to grow into adults. If that's not purpose, and to me that's huge, whether you think so or not, yeah. that is amazing task. So give yourself kudos for that. And if Spirit has something bigger for you, trust me, Spirit will show you and put it in your face. But I really find that you got to work on yourself first for Spirit to give you those big plans. Because if you're not a clear channel and you're not willing to do the work yourself, how are you really willing to do from your heart space the work for the planet?
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. I know a lot of people are struggling right now because we're in this global pandemic, and there's a lot of heaviness around the planet with the energy, with fatigue because of experiencing grief, just grief from the old life that they lived, or losing someone, maybe losing a job. And it almost is like everybody's kind of cocooning and trying to reevaluate life and reevaluate themselves. And some people are more open to it than other people. Some people want to shut that off and try to ignore it. But as hard as they try to ignore it, it's still abundantly clear that the world has shifted. We're not going back into this old way anymore. And it's really important people understand that this is a very real thing. The energies that they're feeling is not something that's made up or is in their heads. It's a very real thing.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But one of the things I do want to say is to really, till someone's vibration comes to a certain level, they're not going to hear or see anything that you say because their reality is completely different than yours. So it's like you've got to use discernment when you're actually going to use your voice and give your energy away to try to get your point across, because regardless of what you say, they're only hearing this. So if you recognize that they're only hearing at this level, and no matter what you say, it's not going to make a difference, you got to step back and you got to send them love. And just divine love, and respect that their reality is different than yours, and just know that you'll be there for them when their reality shifts and they understand all this chaos and they're scared, but they're seeing the truth, they're seeing something different. So one of the ways that I send love is when I come across a situation in my life or a person in my life where there's discord as far as that goes. One of the modalities that I've studied is integrated energy therapy, IET. And we do what we call a heart link. So we'll do this now if you want. And so what you want to do is just want to fill your heart with love and gratitude. And just feel it expanding. And then just connect up to the angelic realm, sending that love and gratitude up. And when you're ready, let's receive that back down through your crown into your heart and feel that expansion of your heart. Now just send a beam of love, and I'm going to send it to you, Kathy, and then you can tell me what you feel. I'm just going to send it what we call a heart link, and I'm just sending that love, that divine love to you. And now I'm going to send it out to everyone that's watching this video. All of you. And just be in that consciousness and just feel that. And you can do this. You don't even have to see the person. They can be in another state, another country. And just send this love out. And I've seen people's consciousness where they couldn't even be in the same energy with me would come up and like change. Their whole demeanor would change within 10 days or so of me doing this on a constant basis. Can you feel how that shifted?
My whole body just like shivered.
Yeah. And what's really cool if you do this, it's like, and there's a baby crying 3 aisles down, heart linked to the baby. And it's like, all of a sudden there's quiet in the store again. Yeah.
I had this really interesting conversation with someone on the podcast where we were talking about just in this world that we're living in and people that are being hospitalized and their family cannot be with them, just being able to send this kind of love vibration to that person who's sick and getting that, message to them in such a way where it's through prayer, meditation, all of these things, how healing it is, for both people. So I love that you share that with us.
Yeah, one of the things that I've done for others, because during this pandemic, they haven't been able to be in contact with their loved ones and they're like in a nursing home or they're in a hospital. I had some woman contact me, and so I did a short mini session where I just gifted her because I felt guided to do that. I do that once in a while. And what Spirit has given me is this gift to create what I call a bridge. So we connect with our highest of higher self, and then the highest of higher self of the other person. And I take you up to the bridge and you can actually communicate and talk with them.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so she got to actually speak with her father before he passed away, and knowing that, and being able to tell him that she loved him and she could feel his energy coming through. And he also had words for her. And I just held the space open for him. So that, to me, it's like, I'm getting all teary-eyed because the way Spirit uses me to be able to assist people like that is just, I have such gratitude because it's such a gift to be able to do that. Oh, I'm getting all weepy. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, it has to be amazing to be in that space with someone and just not just see, but feel that healing that's happening.
Yeah, because they can have a conversation that way. It's like it's like if she hadn't seen her dad for months and she didn't want him to think he was all alone. So we just made that connection so that he knew on that higher self level, and that higher self would give that information down to the lower self, that he wasn't alone, that he was loved, he was being thought of.
Right. That's beautiful. And when you're working with people in this capacity, I mean, I can't even imagine all the different scenarios you've been, involved with as far as people and their journeys, but just connecting them to their loved ones, and not just, the channeling, but also just helping them to have peace, that just live with a sense of peace in their heart, that everything is, in a space where they can have peace, that it's okay. Because I find that right now, it seems, we hear a lot of conversation about how much hurt people are feeling not being connected as family members are in the hospital or in a nursing home situation and they can't be physically with their loved one or, next to them to hold their hands and things like that. So I can only imagine how healing this is for everyone involved.
Yeah, and for me, it's like just to see that magic, and just to and to be utilized that way, because I get to do that, and it's like I'm still always amazed because it's like I'm not really doing anything. I'm just a channel, and I let Spirit utilize that channel, however, for the highest good for everybody involved. One of the things that just popped into my little brain, Spirit tells me these things, is our root chakra is all about our foundation, and right now we're in fear. There's a lot of fear. So because we don't know what's going to happen next, we don't know all the steps. So what I do, because I get scared sometimes too, and I get fear because I get overwhelmed with what I'm seeing. So it happens to me. So it's like, so I go in and I just take a look, and I look at my root chakra, and I look at my foundation down there, and I just really connect with the divine. And I ask to solidify, I make this command, I ask to solidify my foundation in divine trust. so that I can move forward not knowing the outcome, but trusting that all is in divine order and all is going to be okay. So I do that on a couple times a week, anytime I'm just, even if I'm on the edge of it, just when I read something that goes, that gives me that pause, I'll do that, because it's like I don't want to get wrapped up in that fear or let it permeate through me any further than it already might have done that already, if that makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense. And I guess with the shielding, does that help with the fear?
Yeah, the shielding helps because other people have fear, and if you get in that energy, you're going to pick up their fear, so it becomes yours. And there's so much fear on the planet right now, and depending on what level empath you are, because we all have that empathic gift, fear from the planet can just come up through your floorboards, through the ley lines, as far as that goes, and it can really rock your world. So it's like, that's one of the reasons Spirit had me move, because where I was, the ley lines were really intense, and it's like they just said my physical body couldn't take that energy, because I transmute energy all the time for the planet, as far as fear into joy, into love. And one of the things I want to say is 90% of the time, that energy just flows through me and out, because I run the energy, I keep going. But every once in a while, there's still a part of that empathic me that picks it up, and it's like, oh. So that's when I know I have to clear. And it's like, so I do the waterfall, but I also, I call the spiritual shop vac. And I just envision this violet, beautiful liquid light sucking that extra stuff off of me, just like, those Klingons or those energies. I have fun with it. I don't take myself too serious, if you can't tell already. So I kind of, when it's a shield, it's like, okay, now. So, and some of you may not play video games, and I'm not really good at video games, but my son was great. So it's like you have these different levels, and it's like, well, I'm going to buy a shield here. What's that shield going to do? Okay, I want to have that shield. Or I'm going to get a new tool here. It's like, oh, I want this tool to just suck all these entities off of me. And I just create it with my imagination, which is a seed of reality. And in turn, you're creating that reality. And if you believe it, it works. That's the whole key, is just to believe it and to create it, and with intention. And it's a lot of fun, too, because it's like, well, what can I do here in this situation? Well, what's in my toy box? Okay, we'll work with that. And anybody can do it. It's like, I've had people say, well, I can't do this. I'm like, all right, can you use your imagination? All right, just pretend. And it's like, they'll tell me things, but it's like, I'll have things written down. And I'm like, well, this is what I wrote down. Oh, that's what I saw. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, you got it.
And it's nice that you put that kind of fun twist on it, because I think a lot of times people are afraid. I really do.
Yeah, and it can, and yeah, the whole thing is, it's like, I think it should be fun, and I think it should be simple. I don't overcomplicate it. It's like you overcomplicate it, you go down the rabbit hole, and you do all this. Like, even when I do, like, if I clear past life stuff, it's like, I don't go into the details of the past life. I go into the energies of the past life. So I know with you and I, we cleared when we first met, as far as those energies of betrayal. And so it's like, I work with that as opposed to all the little details. I do conceptual thinking, and I get out of that linear thinking, because the linear thinking is like, in math, when you have to show all your work, but you already know the answer, so now you got to make stuff up to get to that answer. But if you don't show your work, even if you get the right answer, you got it wrong. So we're programmed on this earth to have this linear thinking, where if you just go with the concept, it's like, wow, and just believe in the concept, you create the reality of it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it is easy it really is easy to do that. It's just you have the belief systems that we've been programmed with, that linear thinking. You have to have all the steps for this to be of value, or for it to work, or to get a good grade on. And that's all this programming that is going to be dissolving, as we get more and more awoken with the new earth, as far as that goes.
Yeah, and for anyone in our audience who really doesn't understand what that term, a new earth, means, can you just give some enlightenment to what that would mean?
Well, for me, what it means is we're raising our vibration, we're raising our consciousness so that we're coming to a place that we're coming out of the duality of darkness and lightness and coming into the light more, because the light, we've had that tipping point. So it's about divine sovereignty, divine freedom. But for us to get there, the dark's always been there. I do want to say that the dark has always been there, but there's more light now. So the darkness is being seen for what it really is. So it's not like this is all new. It's just always been there. And now your awareness and your attention is there. And by raising your own, like I said, it's by raising your own vibration, by keeping your own fields clear, by being kind to one another, by respecting each other's reality in kindness and divine love and respect. That is what's going to get you through this. There are us light warriors, our light workers, and some of you will be called to do that. And that's okay. But it's okay if you're not called to do that. If you just do those little acts, that's going to be a huge difference. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, it's interesting to hear you describe that the darkness has always been there, but the light is bigger, because it almost feels to most people that the light, has been diminished or something, because the darkness is so portrayed and so huge in a sense. But it's only feeling that way because there's so much light on it, right?
Right.
So,
right. So if you have like a little pen light, it's like, that's all you see. But if you get a big spotlight, look at all you can see with the spotlight. It's like, wow, what else was hiding in the dark?
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that idea of it, because I think what it does is it reframes the idea of the dark and the light, and the people that are just looking at the dark parts of what's happening right now and getting pulled into that, it allows them to shift their thought process in the sense that it's always been there, like you said, but now it's just, we have a brighter light on it. So that's why it's more, telling that it's there. So that's huge. I love that.
And the other thing is, I'd like to say this, when you're in fear, you're feeding that darkness. So it's like, if you can say, okay, this is the darkness, I'm going to be a light. I'm going to be brighter. I'm going to raise my vibration, and that's going to shift that. And I'm going to activate my divine trust in my foundation, because I trust that it's all going to be okay. And I'm going to come from a place of love as opposed to a place of fear. And being conscious of that, like if you feel fear, and it's like, and things that irritate you, it's like, that's fear. That's something that has to heal within you. That's when to really bring in your heart space, really clear your fields out, and just be in your heart, really be in that heart, to really expand your energies out in love and kindness.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have one last question for you. If I were to find your earth angel feather on the ground and I picked it up, what would your message to the world be?
You'd have no idea where your ripples go. So those little acts of kindness can go way beyond what you can see, way beyond. So just start with those little things and let your ripples flow, baby.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Julia, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. And for our audience, if you want to connect with Julia after our show, you can find her at Julia at Wellness Treasures.
Julia Stubbe.
Okay, Julia Stubbe.
Stubbe.com is the website. And then my email is julia@wellnesstreasures.com.
There you go. So juliastubbe.com. She also co-hosts a radio show called Call to Heal.
A Call to Heal, and it's on the BBM Global Network, and we're live on Monday nights, and we facilitate a healing or reading for 3 of our callers. So it's a way my co-host and I, we give back, and if you have like a little something, give us a call, and just by listening to the show, you'll get the healing energies as well.
That's amazing. And then you also have your YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's Julia Stubbe, the Galactic Channel, and there's short, really easy healing processes and activations there, and I also channel light and star language, which also causes a different kind of activation for you as well.
Thank you so much, and I'm sure people will be reaching out to you, because this has been a really amazing segment for us.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. It's like I like I like playing in the energy. I love it. And I love being able to touch people's lives in such a positive way. So thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. So that's all we have time for today. This is Catherine Daniels reminding you to live your authentic life in peace. And as always, retreat to peace. And we'll see you next time. Today, I am excited to welcome my guest, Terza Ekholm. Hi, Terza.
Hi, Catherine.
Nice to see you today. I am so excited to have Terza with us today. She has a really unique podcast that we'll be doing today. She's actually an abstract artist that also uses photography to create wearable art such as scarves, dresses, leggings, shoes, and cell phone cases. And she creates them for men and women who want to feel rich, dress beautifully, and wear high-quality clothing designed by an artist with discerning taste. And if you have the ability to see her backdrop behind us on our call, you can see some of her featured designs. And if you're listening to us, I hope at the end of the podcast you'll tap into her website and check them out because they're really beautiful and really unique. So I love this idea about living well is an art, and I love that we're going to have this conversation. But I would love to know, Terza, how did you get into this space of creating these beautiful pieces and these designs that you make?
Well, first of all, Kathy, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. This is a joy and an honor, and as well as an honor to just share my story. I started my life really as an engineer. Actually, I've always been curious about everything. From probably the moment I was born, I was curious about everything. Always exploring things. But one of the things that I was good at growing up was math and science. And so that led to me becoming a software engineer. And that was really my first career for 18 years. And that was, in some respects, that was really exciting because we were always at the forefront of the new stuff that was being innovated and created. There was no art. There was no art in my childhood. There was no art in my first career. I shouldn't say there was no art. I admired art. I've always been an admirer of art, but never envisioned myself creating it. And that's what I mean when I say there was no art in my childhood. There weren't artists in my nuclear family or anything like that. So there wasn't anybody that I aspired to. It was always beautiful things that you look at somewhere else, right? And so I just never pictured it. Well, fast forward many years later, first marriage, divorce, raised my kids, did all of this during my first career. And when I was laid off after an 18-year career, my husband and I both were from our respective jobs. It was exciting. And I banged around a little while trying to do this thing and that thing. And a friend of mine introduced me to the kind of art that she was creating. And it was textiles. And when she said textiles, my first thought was about quilting. And I've seen gorgeous quilts in the past. But I wasn't sure that was where my interests were. When I saw what she was doing, she was not doing quilts. She was doing art with textiles. And I got excited because I went, I want to do stuff like that. That's just really cool. And I started creating art. Her friends would throw things at me sort of, and because I had no training, and they'd say, what would you do with this? And I would go, well, I don't know. And I would just go into this joyful space of, well, I don't know, let's just see where this goes. And I would make stuff and it would be fun. And apparently, I guess, my joy shows through my creations. So that's what really kind of led me to the path that I'm on now. And I joyfully proclaim that I'm an artist, and I've been doing it for now 8 years. And it is my passion.
I love it. I mean, you can hear the energy in your voice. You can hear the joy in your voice radiating through. Anybody who's just listening to this podcast, definitely can feel that coming through. And for our listeners who can't see what's behind you, it's really interesting because your art is so unique. I mean, you have a piece that is kind of black, white, and gray that kind of looks like it's marbly. There's a piece behind you that's blue that kind of has geometric shapes, and then another one that's red that has some geometric shapes, but also some, circular design in it. And each piece is just so unique and just so special in its own way. And it really does kind of give you like a little bit of an abstract feel when you look at it. So I love the way that it communicates. So when you say that, it kind of comes through your art, what you're feeling, I definitely sense that. And it's really so unique and so special. And I know for myself, when I shop, I look for unique pieces. I look for unique things that talk to me, but also would work for somebody that I know. And I think it just makes you feel so special. So I love that you do that. So I guess, when you were on your journey of becoming an artist, because like you said, you were a software engineer for 18 years, and then you go into creating art after being laid off. I just think how many times people who are artists or who may want to do art are afraid to tap in to that ability that they have, because there's kind of this, stigma around starving artists, air quotes with that.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So
That's a prevailing theme.
yeah. So how do you bust through that? Like, how do you bust through that fear and this kind of thought process that you can't be an artist, because if you're an artist, you're not going to make it,
I think we're taught in our culture to not trust that quiet place within. Oh, sure, there's talk of it, right? For those of us who've come from any kind of a religious background, I know that that's often discussed. But then you move from there and you go into the schools and the workplaces and that kind of thing, and that's no longer discussed. It's sort of treated as this sort of separate thing, when for me I don't want to say it's the same thing, but it's such a natural part of our being. So it's a joy and a blessing to be able to find that inner quiet place. And from there, I believe that's where our creativity comes, our innovations come. And then I think that that's true whether you're an engineer or you're in a nonprofit or you're an artist or an entrepreneur. But the trick is, or the key, I should say, is allowing ourselves to come from that place.
Yeah.
And that's the flow and the joy within.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because, like, in the world that we live in, it's almost like you're shamed to be different or feel different and embrace that unique ability that you have. I look at young children, especially middle schoolers, and they're bullied because maybe, they look different or their hair is different or something. And that is the whole purpose of life, though, is to embrace your individuality, to embrace your uniqueness. And in a culture where everything is revolving around these strict rules, like this is how it's supposed to be, I think that's part of the battlefield that artists go through, because it's like you are putting yourself out there in such a way that you're kind of breaking the rules of the norm, right? Like you're doing things differently. So I think it's a struggle for artists to actually embrace that side of them, but tapping into it in that quiet space. I mean, I know you had this attraction to the textile, but how did you get to that place where you were accepting of it and not fighting it anymore? Because it sounds like there might have been a little bit of a battle within yourself, like, because you had said, I've been an artist for 8 years, but you kind of hesitated for a second there. So, how did you get comfortable with that?
I think when I started with art, that's when I really began to play with things and not worry so much about the rules. And in fact, what my friends told me was that there are no rules. And they suggested that I do, in fact, go take some art classes, learn some different techniques, some ways of doing things, and then feel free to break them. So, and don't worry about that, which is really, it's quite different from, say, doing math and science because, or engineering, because there are rules. There are, and they're important because they'll help you get where you want to go. So it's not that I'm totally anti-rules, but I think when you're thinking about living, there's such a freedom in letting things be just as they are and exploring them in that way. So for me, it was the ability to let colors flow when I started using paints and inks. But then it went far beyond that because I love playing with fibers, just silk fibers. And anybody who's ever played with or done anything with the silk fibers, if you're not spinning or weaving them, um, and if they get when they do get wet, they get all squirrely on you. And so if you're really trying to make them be a straight line, you can figure out how to do it. But my first time playing with the silk fibers, first of all, they have a gorgeous sheen that you don't see in other fibers. But then when they get, I can't expect them to go perfectly straight lines or perfectly circular shapes or anything like that because when you get them wet, they just move on their own. And if I hadn't already played with paints and inks that did that, I might have been really frustrated. But instead, it was just like, oh, this is really fun. I wonder what's going to happen next.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And that's like so amazing that you can take and just be so free to be able to create like that. There, like you said, it's kind of the sense of freedom that there is no boundaries and it's just fully exploring whatever it is that you want it to be. And and I think, just that idea that there's no one way to do it, because as you said, like when you're working with the fibers, they're going in different directions and it's not like you have to do it the one way. Whereas your old world, if you did it the way you're operating your art side of you, you would have everything broken around you, right? So that freedom, I think, is amazing. So tell me a little bit more about like how it feels to put your art into the world, because it is a self-expression of who you are, and it comes from this internal space in you. Was that frightening at first to kind of present yourself in this way to the world?
Well, actually, it still is. It's one thing to be making art in my studio and enjoying it, and then it's another thing to actually be putting it out there just to see how people are going to respond. And then the flip side to that is, then once I find people who enjoy my art, am I going to start to cater to them, or am I still going to remain true to me? And can they be the same thing? And it took me a little while to learn that there are going to be some people who love my art. There are some people who are going to hate my art, and there's going to be a whole bunch of people who don't care about it one way or the other. And for me to be okay with that. And that's really, and that's another, I would say another dimension of joy is to not feel a slave to my ego. So if somebody doesn't like my art, that's okay. At the same time, those who do like my art, that's okay too.
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, isn't that kind of how life works though? It's like, not everything is for everybody. It's not a one size fits all.
Exactly.
There's different things for different people. So I think that's very well put. I mean, as far as like the self-expression and putting it out to the world, are you in a place where you are experimenting? Are you catering more to what your audience wants, or are you still in that exploratory platform where you're trying to figure it out?
I think I'm going to forever be in the exploratory platform of just figuring out which pieces go together and what colors go together. But at the same time, right now I'm finishing up a commissioned art piece. And what they had wanted me to do is they had fallen in love with a smaller art piece, but they wanted a much bigger one because they wanted to put it in their building lobby. So they commissioned me to make a larger version of them. And of course, I explained to them that that was a unique situation when I put those things together, that I wasn't sure I could recreate it, but I might be able to recreate the sense of it. And so for example, this weekend, they'd wanted something with a much darker background, and I tried to make it darker, and I finally just had to make a design decision and go, this piece is coming together with a lighter background, and that's just how it's going to be. So I'm still trying to stick with the original design that I had created, but it's really going to end up looking like a completely different art piece. So,
which is supposed to, though, right? Because it's the own like uniqueness of that piece that is so special. So yeah, that's beautiful. And I think the whole idea of being an artist is just so beautiful in its own right, because it really goes to show the uniqueness of the individual and their talents and their gifts. And that's so special, because every single person who walks the face of the earth has their own unique talent and gift. Yes. But artists actually put it out to the world, in this creation form, whether it's sculpture or the fabrics or, the paints, whatever it may be. So, their self-expression of their talents and gifts is very different than somebody else. So it does take a lot of courage to kind of put yourself out to the world like that, but it's beautiful. But I know in our audience, right now we're living in some really interesting times with a global pandemic, and I'm sure there's people in our audience that are thinking, well, I may be an artist, but I'm just not sure how to tap into it. I'm not sure what to do. What kind of tips would you offer to somebody who's listening that may be struggling with tapping into that artistic side of themselves?
First of all, if anybody ever told you that your art was terrible, I would do my best to discard that memory or just continue to set it aside, because I can't tell you, Kathy, how many stories I heard from people who would visit my studio and they'd say, oh, I wish I could have been an artist, but I had an art teacher in one of my high school art classes who told me I was just terrible, and I was devastated, never wanted to look at it again. And all I could think about was, oh, what a disservice. All that really meant was that particular art teacher didn't like that particular art. But what a squasher, whatever. Right. So there are several different things to do. Some is to go buy a few introductory materials and just start to play, and don't worry about the results. I think we get so hung up on, so many people say to me, well, I can't even draw a stick figure. Well, guess what? Neither can I. So there are people who have a magnificent talent for being able to draw. But I assure you, they didn't spring from the womb knowing how to draw. They just may have picked it up easier than most of the rest of us. But for those of us who would like to learn to draw, it's just something you learn the way you learn to walk or talk or read or anything else. And it just takes practice until you become in harmony with it. Obviously I'm not going down into drawing myself, but I know some people would like to be able to be good at drawing. For me, I embraced the language I treated color and textures as a language. And so I embrace learning it like a new language. So, and I'm not talking about red means this or blue means this. No, I'm just saying you put different colors next to each other and see how they mix together, or that they don't. And that's just part of the fun. So I really encourage people to play. Believe it or not, Play-Doh is a fascinating, fun thing to play with. I also played with Silly Putty, and I just let it do ridiculous things. So I let it drip off the table and other things that probably you're not supposed to do with it, but it was really fun. So just to get a feel for another texture, another way another thing worked, So
yeah. You're giving us permission to play.
Play, and don't worry about throwing stuff away. So,
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, when they do create something, they judge it right
Yes.
away. And
Yes.
then they say, okay, I don't like the way this looks, and they'll throw it away, and then they'll throw their hands up and say, I'm not doing any more of this, I'm going to get frustrated. So I like your message to just allow it to happen
Yes.
and take away the judgment, take away, that judgment that your teacher may have had of you or someone else, because it isn't always for everybody. But if you can just play with it and just kind of roll into it and embrace it and let it be what it's supposed to be, you never know. You might surprise yourself. You might surprise the world. I mean, how many artists do we see that maybe we don't fully connect with, but somebody else connects with and thinks it's an incredible piece of art, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for that.
A key message I would give to people is to give yourself permission to explore what you enjoy. It might not be what your spouse enjoys, it might not be what your children or your parents enjoy, but go find out what you enjoy and embrace that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and it's in a time where we're feeling so much heavy energy around the world, I think that self-expression is a really good way to kind of release some of the heaviness that we feel too, right? So I know there's a whole therapy just around art therapy for healing. And when they do art therapy, literally it's, you create whatever and it is whatever, and whatever shows up, it's okay. It's a nice release, just to kind of be expressive. So I think, for the audience, like if you're able to do a release like that with whatever tools you may have, even if it's your children's crayons or your children's watercolors or finger paints, or like you said, the Play-Doh or the silly putty. I mean, that will help to not only help the children, but also help the adults kind of, give this self-expression and maybe find these, new avenues of talent, or maybe tap into this place that they haven't explored yet. Kind of like what you were saying, after being an engineer for 18 years, now you took a different road and started this art. So I think it's beautiful, and just permission to explore and play and do different things with whatever medium it is that kind of communicates with you and talks to you. Like you had said, the textiles kind of drew you in and, gave you a different perspective on art. And your textiles are gorgeous. I mean, they really are. They're beautiful and they're just so unique, and they just really capture your attention because they're so unique. It's like, wow, how did she do that? It's beautiful. And are there any other tips or tricks that you would offer the audience that may be helpful to them in this time?
There used to be some discussion about whether a person should color in the lines or outside the lines or not worry about the lines. And I'm going to say that if you like to color in the lines because that makes you happy, then you should definitely do that, and don't worry about the people who tell you to don't worry about the lines. On the other hand, if you like just scribbling all over the paper, I think you should do that as well. I really think it's the essence of embracing who you are, and there are people who enjoy numbers. They should embrace that and just love it and be okay with that, and not worry about. I mean, me personally, yes, I understand spreadsheets. I use them a lot in engineering. To me, they're functional. They don't make me particularly happy or unhappy. But I do know people who that get all excited and Twitter-pated about that, and I'm like, yes, please come to work on my spreadsheets.
I can relate to that. I want those people to work on my spreadsheets too.
Right. That's right. So
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So essentially, wherever you find your joy, go towards your joy.
Yes, and remember that there isn't only one way to do things. I think while it's delightful to find solutions and innovations, to me, that always leads us to the next one and the next one and the next one. And we need to be open to whatever the next one might be. And the way to do that is to realize that you didn't get here by one way. Even if you thought you were following exactly in somebody else's footsteps, you weren't, because your feet are a different size.
Oh, listen to you. That's an amazing quote. I love that. Yeah, when my children were young, I used to tell them, when we're practicing something, you don't even realize, like when you're young and you're learning to walk, how many times you fell down and got back up and fell down and got back up. And before you knew it, you were walking. And I kind of look at art that way too. It's like, you just kind of fall down several times and then all of a sudden there's something in front of you and it's like, oh, look at this, now I'm doing it. And it whatever it shows up to be that captures that joy from you is exactly the way it's supposed to be. In the lines, out of the lines, however it shows up. And that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So I love that. I thank you so much for being with us today. And I have one final question for you. If I were to find your earth angel feather on the ground and I picked it up, what would your message to the world be?
Be joyful. Go find your joy, be joyful, and share the best of who you are.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to Terza, you can actually find her on Terza at terzafactor.com. You can also find her on Facebook. And her name is, I'm going to spell this out because I think it's important. It's spelled Terza. And her last name is Ekholm. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Terza. Greatly appreciate it. This is Catherine Daniels reminding you to live your authentic life with peace and retreat to peace. We will see you next time.